Hey, cheers, let's chat. So, listen, let me jump right into it. It's an age old question. Why do good girls like bad boys? Why do good girls go for bad guys? Um, and that's the subject, like, I'm all too familiar with, right? Because for a good part of my life, and it's a little storytelling involved in this one, for a good bit of my life, I would say that the guys that I dated, or the guys that I dealt with, messed with, whatever, went with, however you want to say it, in my youth, right? Um, and youth probably goes up to about 30, right? Um, there were guys that were pretty much, I don't even want to say going nowhere, cause they definitely was going somewhere. They was going to prison. That's where they was going, or the grave, or somewhere that I wasn't trying to go, basically, right? Um, and that's not to say that that is how all of them ended up, right? But for the bulk of my life, when you're growing up, um, in a neighborhood setting, like I say, that was usually my choice to go and hang at my grandma's house and to be around, where all the action was. It was in a known neighborhood, so that's what the action was. And when you coming up in your prime years, that's what the action at. You're more than likely to pick your mates from your environment. So what was my environment? You had the drug dealers, the dudes that they was a few years older than you, but just old enough to get a statutory rape charge, um, but not too old where it seems scary or nasty or something, like they weren't that old, but just old enough to see you walking by and cat call and you know tell you how thick you is and tell you let me get your number, back when you didn't just give a person your phone, and you didn't have cell phones to just get them and tell them to put their number in. You actually had to write a number down. You actually had to remember a number, way back when. So that's what you was pretty much surrounded by all the time. You was, whether you was at the stores, whether you was at the mall, and pretty much based on your physique, that kind of determined how old the guys were who were, trying to deal with you. And if you were a larger sized girl, you was thick and shapely, all the right places. Older guys tended to, holler at you, period. The guys your age, you almost seemed like you were too big for them or too grown for them, right? Even if your attitude wasn't necessarily grown, um, just the guys your age range, you had already kind of been matured past them. So a lot of times you didn't even look at them for anything other than like jokes and fun, class clown type stuff, but you wasn't really interested in them, right? Because once you start dealing with guys that are older and they're bringing more to your situation, they got cars, they got money, they could feed you, throw your lunch money, then the guys your age, they not really, they definitely become your homeboys and your friends because they don't have the same thing to offer you. So that's how a lot of times the statutory rape situations come into play. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just based on the environment. And I seen so many situations where the statutory situation was going on, even to, and I probably mentioned this before, like I had a friend girl that she was dealing with a dude that was a couple years older than her, a couple, not a whole lot, but a couple. And it was something that was, she was agreeing to voluntarily dealing with him, and that was her boyfriend, and that's what they did. But once her mama got wind of it and found out, I guess her mama had asked him a couple times not to deal with her or what have you, and it just continued to go on. Her mama pressed charges on him, and he had that on his name, like, for years and years to come, even though it wasn't a situation where, well, legally it was, but, you know, the reality of it is that all parties were on go and was with the program, and then again, that's the same. It was the same type of situation. She was a healthy chick. She tall, big boned. Guys in her same age bracket, they just wasn't really gonna look at her for, those for a relationship. She was, too mature, too developed. So guys older than her, those are gonna be the guys that was constantly getting at her. And I don't know that a lot of that has changed. And I look at my nieces that's coming up, and I'm like, she the same. She like her auntie. She coming up, gonna be a big, pretty girl, and probably gonna be, the same situations probably gonna present themselves, to her. But anyways, like I said, when you coming up in certain environments, the kind of older guys who are trying to holler at you are going to be, the dope boys, the ones who done dropped out of school, just a lot of times they guys that don't really have nothing going for themselves, and here you go, dealing with them. They nice to you, and because at that point in your life you can't see the forest for the trees. Hey, you feel like they got all the opportunities in the world, just like you young and got all the opportunities in the world, but the difference is you have not yet chosen a negative path. You still going to school, you still got your little part-time job, you still doing your thing, whereas they have either graduated or dropped out of school, or just have decided that this is the occupation that they want to do right now for whatever reason. So whereas you haven't chosen your path, they have chosen their path, right? They have chosen a path where you still have a few paths in front of you, right? And then before you know it, you intertwine, and, if you like me, you get caught up, you get pregnant early. Some people have their kids, some people, have multiple kids. Some, once that train right there starts rolling, where you dealing with guys, you having sex, whatever y'all have going on, now you got your feelings and your emotions. So now, before you know it, you done fell in love with this type of dude, right? And chances are your whole group of girls probably like similar dudes. So all y'all dealing with dudes who really have chosen, a less successful future. Let's just say that, So one person can't really tell the other person anything. The only people who can tell you something is your parents or your grandparents or your aunts or whatever, who they know that based on the type of dude that they see you like, that's going nowhere fast. But of course, during that time, you're not listening to them, right? You ain't listening to them. And especially once you call yourself out in love, your nose is, listen, from the East Coast to the West Coast, it's wide open, So it's not much that they can tell you, And the thing is, like, as some of my friends, as we got older, like, I wanted all us to remember that we were once them. I'm sure that it's different feelings when it's your kids or your nieces and nephews when it's them. But you have to remember that it's a good chance that you were once in their shoes. You know what I'm saying? And we can't let like all understanding go out the door because it's your kid. Because no, you understand how you was feeling when you was riding, in Florida, whether you was riding in that old school box Chevy or the drop top vert, or just a little old school, or just a little, whatever it was you was doing when you was riding with your little drug dealer boyfriend, when he pulled up in the yard and you ran out the house and jumped in the car, and you have to remember those times. Like you was once in those shoes where you were picking, where you had to pick from a negative source, right? But like I said, the problem comes in when, as you get older and you mature, and now this type of dude has become what you like, what you used to, almost what your standard is. That's where it starts to get, rough, because as you start to graduate and you're matriculating through life, maybe you're going to college, maybe you have taken up Maybe you just going to a little training school and you're just gonna get you a, get you a little trade or whatever. Either way, you're choosing, you preparing for life. And you still continue to date certain types of dudes, right? And those same types of dudes, they still continue to be their type. Now they might have started selling weed. Now they selling dope. But now they, maybe they scamming. Maybe they doing, not back then it wasn't really no scamming. It was, you might graduate from weed to coke, to dope, to, pills later on, or you might just do what you do and pick one and that's just what you do. Or you may graduate from selling dope to robbing, or, those were the kind of choices that you had, But either way, here it is, you're turning into what's called a good girl. And then they continue to become bad boys, which really is just another term for criminals, thugs, hustlers, So then you have your college girl who is dating the well-known drug dealer, it comes to that. And it seems like, how in the world, what do y'all have in common? How can y'all even relate to each other? It seems like there should be nowhere in the world that y'all have anything in common. And sometimes you really don't. Sometimes that's just a person that you like, and it ain't even about that you have anything in common with them. Sometimes you just don't fall in love with them. They just nice to you. They just been good to you. And it ain't even about that y'all have anything in common or any future goals in common, because you ain't even all the time talking about that. Sometimes you just enjoying the moments. You just going on the dates. You just enjoying the nights. You just caught up in the moment, so you're not thinking into the future, right? And then before you know it, you look back and, hey, you got a couple of dudes on your roster that all of them have been the same kind of dudes. None of them really with a future, And in my case, like, okay, well, one of the dudes that I really was digging from a young age, by the time we went ahead and made it official, we get out of school with it, he ended up going to the feds. So even though I had relations with dudes who had been going to jail, of course, since juvenile, was writing letters to the juvenile, the detention center, and it seemed harmless to me. It seemed so harmless. Then when, this dude, he go to the feds, he get 5 years on a conspiracy charge. Now it's like, okay, feds, this the big league, So now you trying to go see them. You're trying to, and anybody who deal with prisons, they always put them, they duck them off way far. You got to drive far to see somebody. Like, it just was a headache. This is when I feel like I started saying, this ain't for me. By that time, I had relations with guys who had, been in jail, the county jail. That's when they still had face-to-face visits, even in the county. Now I don't even think they have face-to-face visits in the county, at least not our county. But you go on a visitation, you having you try to get as cute as you can, but then it's like all the metal detector goes off. So you got to change. Sometimes you have to change your hairstyle just because of the metal detector. Take a bra off because of the wires in your bra. Like, it just became a headache. And that's when I started knowing this ain't for me. Like, I'm going to visit somebody, but I feel like I'm in prison. And I'm like, this thing, it started turning me sour to it. And then you get in visitation and you with the person, and they ain't talking about nothing that has to do with progression. Now here it is, you probably your third, fourth year in college or something at this point. And you dealing with a person that their whole conversation is the same conversation y'all was having way back in high school. Like, they're not learning anything different. And in your heart of hearts, you already know they're not coming home to do anything different. You know that. And you like, man, at some point you have like a talk with yourself. You like, all the dudes I've been dealing with, like, they've been street dudes, And then that's not to say though. That's not to say that you haven't come in contact, because at the point where you have went to college or just in your everyday to day, you have came in contact with some good dudes. But they wasn't your stilo, because you were so used to having this negative vibe. You became comfortable with that. And now that's your norm. So the guys who come clean cut, they ain't got dreads, they don't have gold teeth, they don't have, they ain't talking at you, not talking to you, talking at you. They ain't got, some kind of storyline where they mess with multiple women or got 100 baby mamas. If they don't have all that storyline, they seem lame to you. They seem like, you just won't get along with that with him. And here it is, you supposed to, like, you a good girl. You might have had your little situation in high school, but you in college now, you don't have no kids. You got, the world is yours. You still bad. Like, you don't mind working. You keep your little job. Your little financial aid be coming through. Like, hey, you top of the line in your prime. And this is what you like, though. So because that's what you like, that's what you associate more with. That's where you go clubbing at. That's where you go hang out at, where those types of dudes are. Because any other place, you like, ain't nothing going on in here. Ain't nobody in here. I ain't even stun nobody in here. No, because you stun everybody that's at the little hole in the wall. You stun everybody who on the block, and unfortunately, it distorts us. You get used to the fast life, the fast pace of guys like that. And before you know it, you have a problem even picking a good dude, because you're not attracted to what we know as good guys. You're not even attracted to that. And before you know it, you done pigeonhole yourself to those the only kind of dudes you like. So like I say, I started coming up out of that, right? Going to visitation, it got me to the point where I knew I no longer wanted to deal with anybody who could possibly put me in a situation where I was going to visitation again. I just hated it. I was going to Coleman Federal in Lee. It was like right outside of Leesburg in Florida. Listen, it wasn't far from Orlando where I was driving, but it's just a point. Like, you got to drive all the way there. It's all the way out in West Bubble. And then you get there. It take a long time to go through for you to actually get there. Then, depending on how fresh he trying to get for you, take another long time for him to come out. Chances are he was in there trying to figure out who in visitation, trying to make sure you ain't got two or three females who gonna bump heads. Because one thing about it, who they are out of prison is who they are in prison. And I done went to visitation and looked up, and literally like looked up, and it's a chick up there. And she up there with his mama. I said, okay, cool, no more. I won't be back this way. And I did go back to that one. And it was, like I say, Buddy had 5 years. So by the time I went to visit him again, he was in the county when I went there, and there was a female there. By the time I did go to visit him again, he had not set up in at Coleman, which is the prison county. But like I say, those were things that was getting me tired. Like, buddy, you still a whore. You still doing your thought thizzle. Like, when I'm on the phone with you, your conversation ain't no different. There is no growth mentally. Like, this ain't for me. At this point, I'm coming home on vacations, sliding up here to see you. Like, I'm out for the winter. I'm out for spring break, or I'm out for the summer. I knew this life wasn't for me, And then my last dude that was like, really, like, I really was crazy about him. And that's not to say I wasn't crazy about the other dude, but we had already pretty much started going our separate ways. It was just kind of like a loyalty thing at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to seem like I stopped talking to you whenever you hit your hard times. So I tried to, make sure I saw that them little 5 years to the end. And that's another thing. You start to feel the obligation to people that they ain't feel no obligation to you. And if the shoe was on the other foot, you probably wouldn't have been able to get them for no cause. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that they didn't like you, but you just know that if the shoe was on the other foot, they would not have held it down in the way that you did. Now, of course, as the years went by, he would always give me verbal accolades, like, you was there, and like, yeah, I was there. I did the years with you. But what did I get for that? What did I get for that? Nothing. There was no reward on that other end for me. You know what I'm saying? And I knew that it's not going to be no reward. He ain't coming out and we're going to get married and live happily ever after. No, because I could tell right now he going to come home and he going to do the same thing that got him there. I knew that. So I was in my process of trying to get out of that. But because I'm still young and because it was so ingrained in me, dudes like that, I had one last little hoorah. And he was a little younger than me. And listen, like, I was crazy about little buddy, you hear me? And he probably was one of the wildest, like, just give money was all he wanted to do. That's all he was concerned with. But he was the sweetest, but he was the wildest. Like, in terms of how he treated me and how he cared about me, or how I knew he, felt about me, top tier. But what he was doing with his life, driving it straight into the ground. I'm talking about like a rocket, as fast as he could, And at one point he had got shot. And I thought that was going to slow him down. So that's what made me talk to him, because I'm like, surely he's going to slow down. He done got shot, right? But he didn't. He slowed down for a little bit. And I had one of my aunts, she was encouraging me, like, yeah, talk to him, And I was like, okay, I see, because I probably was like a year older than him. But he, like I said, he was cruising in the fast lane. You hear me? Like, he was speeding in the fast lane. Not even cruising. He was speeding in the fast lane. So I gave it a try. And I was like, man. Now, see, that's what we really mess up at. When it's something that we know we should not be dibbling and dabbling in, and then we go ahead and try, and then we mess around and like it. Listen. As I'm trying to come out of this messing with thug type dudes, I dibble one more time, and then I like it. Like, I'm crazy about him. Like, he the sweetest thing. Like, listen, the sweetest thing I've ever known, But he keep it 100. Like, he keep it 1,000 with me. And he understands the caliber of female that I am. And to this day, like, I just respect that. When he told me, I can't be the person that you need. I can't be the person that you want me to be right now, because I love the streets. And him telling me that, it's like it woke up everything in me. Like, we don't have to argue. I don't even want to cry. Like, I just thank you for letting me know. Because at this point, I know that this is not the road that I want to travel. I'm in college. I'm trying to finish up my bachelor's, right? I know that I want to move in different circles. I don't want to have to go to visitation no more. I don't want to have to do nothing that has to do with jail or prison, probation, home confinement, accepting calls. I ran my grandma's phone bill up to like $400 and some dollars. And it is something in today's time, but in the 90s, 400, listen, I'm supposed to got put on my head for that. Like, what are you doing? And it was stuff like that, like, all the time. I wasn't ignoring it. I was just making mental notes, like, this ain't it, this ain't it, this ain't it, So when I got to the dude that, like, I'm like crazy about him. And when he finally said that, I was like, okay, noted, you know, and we went our separate ways. And I know I have said this before in one of my other videos. It's like a couple months after that, he caught a charge, right? I remember it was like December-ish, whenever we were, because I was home for like Christmas break or something. And we had this conversation. We had rolled out by the club. We was vibing, having a good time. And it's like I don't know, like he was just everything I wanted. You know, he had the look, he had the dress, had the goals, had the nice car, like, and he was sweet to me. Like, listen, baby, you could tell, listen, hey, I'm good. Except for the lifestyle, right? And like I said, a couple months after that, he caught a case. Now, remind you, we hadn't broke up, but he caught the case. And I know he thought I was going to be able to, like, circle back around and you know, be a person that did some time with him or held him down. I couldn't do it. When he told me he loved the streets, I literally let the streets have him. And it proved that the streets don't love nobody, you know. And that was the turn of me getting away from bad boys, or me wanting relationships with guys that didn't have, you know, some type of future ahead of them, that it didn't look like they were on that trajectory, you know. And I really try not to judge people too fast, because some people, I always say, don't count people out too quick, and don't count people in too quick, because it's people who looked like they was going to do wonderful in life when we was young, turned out to be bums. It was dudes who you just for sure know they weren't going to do nothing with their life. Boom, turned out, got their whole life together, and wonderful, you know. So I try to give people a chance, you know, and get to know them and give people the benefit of the doubt. But I think, well, a lot of us as women, where we go wrong, we give a man too much of the benefit of the doubt after he has shown us. Now, all of us ain't gonna get lucky and get a dude that's just gonna say, baby, listen, I'm in these streets, I'm gonna be in these streets, I can't be what you need. All of us ain't gonna get lucky enough to hear that. You know, we're gonna hear a dude say, oh, I'm trying to come out, you know, give me to the end of the summer, give me to the end after Christmas, I gotta get this, I gotta get that. I done heard all of that, you know, because I think some of us are the type of people who we look for situations that we could fix, or that we could bring something that we know we bringing something to, so that we could try to change it, right? Oh, why you doing that? You know, oh yeah, you ever thought about this? Some of them dudes, no, they ain't thought about that. They good with what they doing. Oh yeah, they thought about it, but that's all they did was think about it. They ain't do nothing to try to move in that positive direction. They so comfortable in that rut, you know. And like I say, like I go back to, you know, to Buddy. I couldn't do the time with him, and time, Lord, he got a whole lot of it. I couldn't do it with him though, you know, and I literally had to cut myself off from him and not even talk to him, because I could have easily, because of how I felt about him, I could have easily got rolled back up into that, and I knew I would have. But I also knew I'm in college, I'm trying to live, like it's things I want to do, places I want to go. Like I can't commit to this neither, and he gonna want me to commit to it, because he had been to jail before. I did them couple of months with him, you know. But this is a whole bunch of time. I'm not finna give my life to this, especially after you told me you love them streets. You know what I'm saying? It was understood. And you know, as they say in the streets, anything understood doesn't need to be explained. I understood you was gonna do what you was gonna do, and I understood it was time for me to go do what I needed to do, which was, you know, continue on the path I was on. Go ahead, finish school, do what you're gonna do. So yeah, I did it. I didn't do the time with him. Did I write some letters here and there? Sure I did. When I say he wrote me, like, he ain't never really stopped until maybe like the end of his bid is when he stopped sending things to my grandma. And it was like one time I had reached out to him just to acknowledge, like, yeah, I've been getting your letters, I've been, you know, and he was so surprised that I had reached out, that he made me like prove that it was me. Like he literally could not believe it was me reaching out to him, because that's how much he had heard from me, or how, and I proved it to him. I was like, no, it's me. Send him some up-to-date pictures and stuff. And he was so happy. And it's just like, every time we talk, every letter he sent over, I didn't talk to him on the phone, but like when we were able to, like he did like a video something, and when we, the system changed to not letters to emails or whatever. So when we was going back and forth, like he always was sorry. He was saying Valentine's, just everything. He always said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, And, I was just like, you don't have to be sorry. Like, I understand, that's the life you chose. That's what you were caught up in. You was happy doing that. Like, but you don't have to be sorry. Like, it's nothing. I'm not feeling no kind of way because you decided. I love the fact that you told me and then continue to waste no time. And I love the fact that we wasn't together when he caught that charge. Even though it was like 2 months, maybe 3 months in between, we weren't together, So that made me not feel obligated to do the time. I was not obligated to do the time. Whoever you was dealing with, they might have been obligated to do the time, but I wasn't, And I just feel like, man, like, it's like you think about, like, I know how much I liked him. I know how much I cared about him. And had he chosen a different path in life, could me and him have been together? Of course. Easily. Like, no doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I feel like us as women, we take certain risks. And we get caught up in those risks that we've taken. We risk certain relationships with certain people, with certain types of people, certain types of men that we know isn't going anywhere. That we know isn't going in the direction that we wanted to go in. We know that. So then we start trying to force it. So then we giving them ideas. Oh, you don't want a business in this? Or what about this? You ever thought about that? We having to come to the table trying to give him ideas, so that when I introduce you to my people, I can say, oh, this is what he does. He has a business in this. Because I can't introduce you to my people and tell them that you sell dope. I can't introduce them to my people and tell them, oh, he the biggest robber in the city. Will lay you down, daddy. Who? He'll lay you, daddy. Who? He don't play. Like, who can do that? You can't. Well, I suppose there may be some females who can, but I don't have the type of pops who going for that, who wants to hear that ignorant, foolish stuff. No. And so that was, for me, that was my challenge, because although my grandma now maybe was a little more liberal, I had a dad that that ain't what he wanted for me, and don't bring no foolishness to him like that, So I always had to kind of I ain't running home to introduce you to, I ain't bringing you to introduce you to people. You know what I'm saying? Because I already know they had a little iffy background. He gonna ask 1 or 2 questions. You can't answer them questions right. It was a waste in me bringing somebody to him, So I never really did, If they had that going on, So to answer the question about, how the bad girls get into it with these good guys, it's just like we take a risk. We roll the dice. We're hoping that nothing will turn into something. We know that he's not the type of dude we need to be dealing with, but yet we hoping some kind of way he'll change, he'll grow out of it. Maybe he'll go do a bid that'll change his mind, and maybe he'll get caught one time by the police and decide, oh, no. What I have learned over the years is that certain guys, once they realize that they could actually do a prison bid, they actually can do it. Then the risk that they're taking out here, even though, they don't want to go back and do it, the fact that they know they can do it, the idea of going to prison is not a deterrent for them. It's not enough for them to say, I'm never going to sell this again. I'm never going to do these things again that could possibly lead me to jail. It's not enough. Because they know they could do the time. They know they could do it. You know, and it's crazy because sometimes you think you could, I feel like the dude feel like he could do it because you had this girl with you who was doing the time with you. That's why your time was so easy. She kept letters, she kept pictures, she kept visitation, of course you could do it because you had somebody like her doing the time with you. The next time you may not be as fortunate to have a woman like her doing the time with you. So you think you could do it, but I don't know. But the problem, like I said, is that we get comfortable with a certain type of person, with a certain type of dude, and then before you know it, we can't even see other types of dudes because these are the types of dudes that we like. And then now you don't pigeonhole yourself into having a certain type, and that type is usually the type that may not be doing nothing with themselves. You know, whether you doing something good with yourself or not. You know, it's a flex for him to say, oh, my lady this, oh, my lady that, my lady, you know, she got her degrees, she'll this, she'll that. But what can she flex and say about him? Nothing. So a lot of times, those type of guys, they gravitate to women who are doing something with their life, who have done something, so that's a flex for them. That's something that they could be proud of because they don't have nothing going on that they can really be proud of themselves. They ain't did nothing. So yeah, you want to say, oh, my lady is a nurse. My lady is a teacher. My lady. But when she teaching her class and she talking about her husband or her boyfriend, she got to make up a lie and say that you this or you that. Oh yeah, he has his own lawn service. He do landscaping. He drives Uber. He works. He does Lyft sometimes. You know, he got to make up lies because you have given her nothing. And that's one thing, like, I ain't never been a lying type. So I never wanted to have to make up lies for what my guy does. Like, I'm just not going to tell you nothing about what he do before I go to line and saying he got this business, he got that business. No, we just ain't going to talk about it. I'm just not even going to talk about him because I don't want my coworkers asking me about him. I don't want nobody who don't already know to know. So you're never going to hear me talk about him if I got a situation like that. But now, I said that was my last hoorah. And it really was relational-wise. But then there was a guy that I was dealing with. And I had, you know, he was kind of like a person that you deal with on and off here and there whenever, you know. And that really, really was the last situation that I was going to be in that was going nowhere fast. And again, sometimes, you know, you just doing stuff. Like you don't have anticipation of something being something, you know. Sometimes we'll deal with a person and we know that's not going to be our husband, our boyfriend, or nothing. We're just kicking it with them, right? So then they don't always have to meet the same expectations, you know, because there's nothing that I really want from you like that. You know what I'm saying? It's certain things I might want from you, and that's all I might want from you. I might want a little time, a little attention, a little whatever, but there's nothing else going on in your life that's probably going to be able to benefit me, you know. So it's cool. You know, I've already accepted that part. Like, I like what I like from you. I get what I get from you, and that's it. So in that situation, that was cool, and that worked out for a long time. Many moons, many years that worked out. Until I just got really grown, and I was like, I don't want this no more. I don't even want this no more. Because I've never been dealing with this person long enough for this person to show me some kind of act right in terms of that they got some kind of goal, some kind of ambition, some kind of something to say, hey, they're going to do this, that, or the third with their life. And I have not seen nothing. You know what I'm saying? I've heard talks. I've heard, you know, I've heard ideas, certain plans, you know. I even helped the person out with, you know, hey, you say you want to, but they said they wanted a food truck or something like that. Okay, well, ooh, you can name it this. You can listen. I got all the ideas for you. If you say you want to do something, female or male, I got some ideas. Hey, I got some concepts for you. I was like, oh yeah, you can do this, you can do that, da da da. But then you don't never see that person making any moves towards that. And that's not to say that just because you don't see people making moves don't mean that they making moves. But if I talk to you every single day, right? Better yet, you are the king of good morning and good morning and good night and this and that all through the day text. You the king of that. And if every time I talk to you, what you doing? How you doing? What you did today? It's never anything towards something positive. It's never anything towards a business, towards going back to school, towards, it's never anything towards anything that I could work with in the future. Like, just give me a little something, because I want to help you with something. That's just the nature of women. We want to add our little 1-2 to something. Never. Couldn't get girl nothing. I'm like, to the point that I even I just get tired of talking to you. Like, I don't even text you first. I don't even talk to you first, like nothing, because I don't feel like you're giving me nothing to talk about, nothing that I'm interested in. You know what I'm saying? You ain't doing nothing. Every day I'm getting up, I'm going to work, I'm thinking about, at that point I was trying to get back in school. I just was finishing something. Like, my mom was always going to what's next, what can I do? You know what I'm saying? With you, it's never nothing. Like, yeah, you had kids and you had other things to think about and stuff, but what you doing for yourself? And because you got kids, I need to hear you building. You know what I'm saying? I'm asking questions like, you got an insurance policy? Your kids, you got an insurance policy for your kids in case anything happens? Oh yeah, my mama got. How old is you when you talking about your mama? Boy, if you don't go get go sign up for a goddamn Gerber policy today, go get you a Gerber life insurance. You can start it right now, tonight. Like, your mama, how old is, boy, you in your 40s. If you don't stop talking about what your mama got. I mean, at some point, everybody need to grow up. We have to grow up. And then at some point, we have to check ourselves as women. What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? How much time do you think you got here on earth that you could continue to give time to that? Why? And then I feel like in our heart of hearts, we always be knowing. And we find reasons to just skip over it. And sometimes it's just your feelings. Like, this works. This fine. I love this. I like doing this right now. And sometimes it's like I had another video. No, you don't want to be alone, so you stick to it. And you ride that way till you can't ride it no more because you scared of being alone. So I was dealing with all of that. But, and then you dealing with stuff that your friends saying. Your homegirls like, oh, well, y'all ain't together by now. Da, 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 da. Like, no, baby, we couldn't be together even if he wanted to. Because who am I taking him to and say he is my man? Who? I might to tell y'all that, but I can't take this man home on no serious note and say this is my man and he don't have no job. He don't have no business. He ain't got nothing going on but churn and baby mamas. As the female that I am, I'm almost ashamed. You hear me? What? What? No, so a lot of times you see people in situations and you like, why they ain't married? Why this and that? Listen, sometimes there's real reasons going on that you may never know. They may never really share that with you. You may say, she crazy for being with him so long and he ain't with. You don't know why that woman is accepting what she accepting. You don't know what he could have going on. What she say, I can't. She might feel like she can't marry him. The feds could come knocking any day, cause he's the big man. You just don't know what he do. She know why she ain't tied her name to him in certain ways. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy when you come up in certain situations. It's easy for the good girl to get tied to the bad boy. Those are just some of my situations, that happen because, and when I say good girl, I'm not saying like, oh, she's never did anything bad. No, I'm saying a woman or a female young girl who has a positive trajectory for her life. Meaning it's nothing stopping her from doing and being everything that she wants. She got good brains in more than one way. She got, she has integrity. She has a good spiritual life. She has, she has everything that she needs to be successful. So she's the person that you wonder, how in the world could you link up with him? What is it that you possibly have in common with him? Well, just like anybody else, you get to know them. They nice to you. They good to you. Hey, that's what matters. And sometimes that's all that matters until you start, thinking and you like, nah, I need a little more than this. He gonna have to show up with a little more than just being nice to me. You know what I'm saying? I need to be able to take him a few places. I need to be able to, you want to be proud of who you have. You want to not have to make up lies for him. You want to not have to cover up and say, oh, it's, why your boyfriend always home while you at work? You know what I'm saying? Like every woman wants somebody that she could be like, yes, him, yes. Like that you could really feel in your heart, like he deserves me. And for me, like, it's hard for me to feel like a man deserves me who isn't doing nothing with himself. How do you deserve me when every breath I take, I'm trying to figure out how I can do better, what I can do better, who I can be better to, how I can make this situation better, how I can make some more money, what education do I need, when do I need to stop going to school? Well, like every breath I take, I'm trying to figure out how to maximize this life that God has given me. So how can I feel like this man who is doing nothing but taking penitentiary chances, throwing bricks at the prison, you're not making as many churn, laying meat down in every hole that'll open up for you. How can I feel like you deserve me? Me? And again, that's not to say that I'm perfect, because I have my own past, moving around, being young and doing what I do because I could and because I enjoyed it, right? But so that's not to say like I'm perfect and nobody is. And that's is that your goal, to be perfect? Because you ain't gonna be perfect till you get up out of here. But is it my goal to try to live a life that's right and righteous and have people around me that's righteous, that care, that have integrity, that I could trust you around this person, I could trust you around that person, like I could sit you in a room with my old boy and not get cussed out or get told off afterwards, like, who is this Negro you brought to me? Like, why is he even here? Like, I don't want to hear my daddy saying all that foolishness. You know what I'm saying? So, or nobody else that I have respect for. So, like I said, it's easy it's easy when you're in certain situations for the good girl to get caught up with a bad guy. And I just told y'all some of my situations. And, maybe y'all done walked in them shoes and you can understand it. I know sometimes some situations where girls dated decent dudes all their life, then they waited till they got old to start dealing with thugs and dealing with people who ain't got nothing going on. That is the most backwards and stupidest thing ever. I can understand it when that's your environment. But after you done had a few good men and then you older and you just choose stupid, when them feds come, I hope they sweep your tail right on up with them, because hell for you should know better. But no, for real though, like, as you get older, like, if you ain't trying to do better as we get older, because I tell my dad all the time, it would have to be him or my brother. Other than that, please, I'm done with visitation. You know what I'm saying? And please don't put me in a situation where I have to go, because I don't like it. I don't even like it to go for them. It's too invasive. I don't want no woman rubbing me, checking. No, I don't like that. So please don't let the unnecessary occur. You hear me? But yeah, and for the women who y'all struggling, trying to leave those situations alone because fell in love, you love him, that's and you want him, but you just want him to do so much better. Listen, let me put this bug in your ear. Until he wants something different, ain't nothing you could do. Until he wants something different, you could support it. But if you gotta fund it, Well, y'all know how I feel about funding men stuff. Because men supposed to be men. And if you done been out here playing in these streets for a long time, that woman shouldn't have to fund nothing. She shouldn't have to fund nothing. After you done got a good amount of money saved up, you should want to go ahead and turn legit and get you a business, do you some stocks and bonds and do, like, if your mindset ain't that, what can anybody do with you? Let alone a good woman. And then why is you even playing with the good women? Go on and play with people that's more your speed. Because it's street women too. It's women who like to run the streets. They love that. Go get those kind of girls. Go get those kind of women. Leave the good ones for the good ones. Enjoy your night.